from the Solomon Brothers Studios. Jaron, one of the first times I met you, I remember going into the safe. And I felt like it was like a trust thing. He's like, I'm letting Nick see the safe. First off, before we get into this, tell him how many safes the stores have.
Well,
and talk about just how insanely sophisticated the safes are.
I don't know if you're leading me on and you want my uncle to get really mad at me for saying how many safes we have in here, but I'm just going to say there's more than 4. How about that?
Yes. Okay. So that's part of the question. It was a trick question because we're going to talk about security today, but we're going to also talk about heists. And we're going to talk about why jewelry has become something that is almost the infamy of you being a heister and just doing jewelry heists is almost more than the value of what you take. It's become in the lexicon of like cool stuff. Like there are movies about it. There's movies about paintings, all these rare things. And yes, ultimately, it's hard to trace these things. You can melt them down. There's value. Anything that's liquid is going to be stolen. But let's talk a little bit about just for the basics. Okay. Yeah. We are in Buckhead. We're on the 17th floor right now.
Yes.
But talk about how much security goes into these places. And when you do a build out and how much it's something that weighs on you from insurance purposes, I want to set the stage and just how big of a part of your day to day it is because I have seen the apparatus. This is not something you can joke around with for many reasons.
No, absolutely not. And, I'm excited about the episode because it's been a really interesting evolution for us. We're sitting here on the 17th floor, right, of a high-rise building. Pretty darn safe.
Yep.
Then we went to a 2-story building and we're on the 2nd floor in Alpharetta. And then we're at a traditional ground floor location.
All made of glass.
In Sharpsburg, all made of glass. So, I mean, these are all kinds of things. I've had to think through all of them at different levels. And, we feel very safe here in Buckhead because of where we are and where we are in the building. It'd be very difficult to infiltrate here. And
that's not a challenge to anybody.
Not a challenge at all. But if you do, then you also have to pick which safe to go in because it's going to take. So every safe, is UL rated, right? So there's a rating that the insurance company will give a safe, and if it's not rated high enough, then it doesn't get insurance. And for layman's terms, I would say the rating is all about how many hours is it going to take somebody to break into that safe.
Got it. Whether they take a heat gun and break through it that long, or just the art of cracking it takes long enough. There's enough fail safes that it would take that long.
Correct. And there's certain things that you do, like you've seen in the movies. Oh shoot! How about the Italian job? How much would that gold be worth today? But I think in the movie I remember saying, "Don't crack the glass," right? Otherwise, it kind of locks or whatever. So that's real. Like that happens in these safes. That's how these safes are built, and so you have to be very careful. You have to take your time. So most of these safes are going to be 8-hour. Type of break-ins.
Right.
So that's why, like here in Buckhead, especially, there's no vault. There's a bunch of safes.
Yeah.
So for somebody to come up here, I would imagine, I'm not a robber, but I would imagine that they're thinking, okay, how much can we get
the
easiest way? Well, you don't want to go into a store and have to guess which safe do I go into? You want to risk your whole life over, a couple $100,000 that's easily trackable with GIE inscriptions. Like, you don't want that. You want the gold, right?
Smash and grab.
That's the easiest stuff to get, but you don't know which safe it's in.
Yeah.
So that's why you're going to see people more going into vaults, and you're going to see more people doing the roof stuff, which we've seen here in Atlanta to a couple of folks. And, every single time the fail safe that's happened is this sounds so dumb.
Yeah.
They haven't set the freaking alarm, Nick. The owner walked out and didn't set the alarm.
Which is the only way you're going to speed up the 8-hour window is by catching it at some point in the action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're giving them kids in a candy store.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for goodness sakes, you've lost all your insurance.
So let me ask you this insanely hard to almost impossible question. And if we want to run this through AI, how many people in the United States of America have the capability to crack one of the safes in this office?
What a great question. I have no clue on that answer, so we will get that back to you.
I mean, look, first of all, that is a passed down thing that you are studying for hours upon millions of hours of your life to get good enough to do something like that, right?
I can't
imagine. I can't imagine it being more than dozens. I can't imagine it being more than dozens in the United States of America to the safe capacity we have, which is why you see these smash and grabs. You see these little things. And now, that being said, a little thing 5 years ago when gold was $1,200 is a lot different than gold being $5,300.
Yeah.
Right? So, but that being said, our protocols, man, I had to open an account in a bank, a trust account. And do you know how long? It took me an hour and a half to do it because everything had to be signed, sent to the government for approval, notarized, all this stuff. There are so many mechanisms in place to catch it. There's got to be a clearinghouse. clearinghouse. You can't just get the cash. It's got to go to clearinghouses now.
Right.
So I think the underbelly and the dark web of the world is much bigger than any of us think there is. And I think there's a lot more people that you think that are outstanding civilians that are part of that underbelly.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that can actually go crack the safe, just like how many people can build the safe.
Right. Well, and, let me ask you this question. I mean, getting a little bit off topic, but, the security, on the web, right? All of these hackers, all of this kind of stuff. I feel like that's almost taken over,
it's a really good
security
point.
Because it's like you don't hear nearly as much, of the sophisticated robberies. You do still hear the smash and grab because there's no sophistication there.
Yeah.
You're just going in and how reckless you want to be. And unfortunately, maybe mentally unstable a little bit or whatever,
People steal Lamborghinis all the time.
But,
they take a Lamborghini, they bring it to a chop shop, they break it down to pieces. They think you almost always get caught.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, I think that, with all this nonsense on the web and hacking and all, and AI being there now to make things so much easier for people from a coding standpoint.
Yeah.
I think that that's taken over a little bit, with crypto.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, we see it. How many people try to hack the site and try to buy stuff and what do they think? Are they just trying to take cash the money out? It's so easy to catch it.
Right.
And mostly because times they're morons and they put the wrong zip code or they're wrong to put the CVV. This is not, again, the sophistication level's not there.
No. But there's so many opportunities now to do it at such high volume. I don't think we see it nearly as much, but we are, you talk about gold now. It's like, hey, it's got to be behind lock and key now in the case. We don't want to see multiple pieces on top of the case. We have a lot of protocols here.
And I'm sure that there's glass breaking sensors everywhere. So if you come in and smash and grab, that's setting off an alarm. So how do you laser cut around it? It's not that easy. There's, again, we talked about this, the layers of bureaucracy, right? Everything is an expense that adds up to your bottom line that didn't exist before, but it adds levels of safety. And all most business owners want, look, I'm sure you guys have to be meticulous, but really what you want is the peace of mind to know it's not something that has to keep you up at night. Because how do you operate a business if you're worried about things like that? That's got to make it really hard.
There's no question. And listen, for me, whenever the alarm goes off here and it trips or something, which is it's mostly the connection is the communication's not talking, right? Yeah. So if someone did come in here, then the alarm wouldn't work at that, and we get an alert right away when communication fails. The minute that happens, my number one thing is, will the insurance company pay, right? What if someone comes in here and steals everything and I've paid the insurance, I have insurance on everything, but I've done something wrong. One of the managers left in was...
Which is what insurance companies want.
Oh.
They don't want to pay for this stuff.
Exactly.
They do everything possible to make it seem like they care, but their greatest moment of their life is to cash $10 million of your insurance money to never have to pay.
Exactly. And that's all they want, right? Yeah. Did you set both alarms, right? We have 2 alarms, at the locations, and, that just in case one fails, we are so
one's got to be on cellular,
paranoid.
One's got to be hardwired, one's going to be this, one's going to be that.
But you have to be, because it really does. It helps us sleep at night, and it helps us go home and say, listen, we've got insurance on everything. We've done everything right. Anything we've thought of that we could have done wrong, we have a backup for. So we take it very, very seriously, because that extra, 15, 20 grand a year in security measures is there. And speaking about that, we have a full-time security guard, right, at the Sharpsburg store, because it's a ground level store. So, it's all of those different fail safes that you're going to have at the different locations. We built up, a higher pavement and pavers so that no one can just drive into the store and just smash into the windows, and, all those kinds of things that we really think through when going into a jewelry store. The security is top notch.
So 2-part question. One is that when you talk about something like an insurance company for operations like this, there's got to be a huge level of trust between your insurance company, your broker. There's got to be relationships. So I'm curious how you handle that. And then I'm curious if there's a security consultant that you work with that told you to raise the pavers, or that's just you having to go out and learn on your own. And so 2 parts. Let's start with the insurance. Talk about, there's jeweler's insurance that didn't exist 20 years ago, and talk about how they rate the policy, and just give an idea. And again, I don't want to tell all our secrets, but I'm sure this is pretty public information as to how this works.
For sure. And listen, there's no secret now, because Jewelers Mutual is the number 1 writer for all independent jewelers, and possibly even the chain stores. I don't know, but for independent jewelers around the country, they're kind of the only game in town, which really annoys me, right, Nick? I mean, when there's no competition.
You could have a rider with your insurance company, it would just be a lot more expensive, because they're not professionals at it. They don't know.
And but they know what they're doing. So the nice thing about having a jeweler's mutual in the industry is that when something happens, they call us and say, hey, so-and-so just got robbed. Here's how it happened. Here's how you can prevent it. And I do appreciate that to say, hey, we will not raise your premium if you have these things in place, right? Which I really appreciate. You know, it's kind of like at our homes, right? The insurance company finally, my insurance company, at least my broker called me and said, hey, if you get this fail-safe on the water, right, where you have this app and, you know, it'll shut off the water immediately if there's a leak, we'll lower your insurance because you have a less likelihood of flooding.
It's so cheap to do those things. Those used to be huge barriers to entry. It's you connect it to a Wi-Fi. It's that simple. I have one in my basement right under my water boiler, which is usually the thing that goes. So it's the basement that you should be around.
Yes.
But what used to be thousands of dollars is like $60 now.
So I do appreciate technology getting better and better and better and causing us to have better fail safes. And the insurance companies actually, the good ones and the honest ones, which I don't know if that exists exactly.
Good and insurance do not.
I don't know if that exists, but you know, at least they're offering these things where it's not ridiculous. Hey, buy this technology for $50,000 and we'll lower your insurance by $10,000. Like it's not that. It's buy this for $200 and we'll keep it the same.
And what makes it so hard is that the insurers have to play a looking backwards and a looking forward game at the same time, right? You have to look backwards and be like, okay, this smash and grab was a 1 in 8 million chance. So that means the chance of it happening again is almost zero, right? But it happened. So are they a target? So if you think about it, even storms, like every year we say that was a 100-year storm. Well, if 500-year storms happen, who made that description up? Like someone's wrong. So, but then the odds should be it doesn't happen for 5,000 years afterwards.
Right.
So I get it, but I also think there's a problem because it is so unregulated. And when I say unregulated, there's supposed to be a guy, but if you want to talk about the most paid under the table guy on earth, it's the insurance commissioner anywhere. I'm sure the government cares about how much money. So I think it's really hard, but at the same time, it is the least transparent industry I've ever seen. The price raises are arbitrary. Like if you can show me the math that you're justifying to raise that price and show me that price isn't the exact margin to which your profit margins went up as a company, I would pay the price. But they have no obligation to show any of that stuff. They have financial statements for an entire corporation for State Farm. No one knows how to read it. So that is my problem with the industry. And it is this country mandates you have insurance, but doesn't mandate the protocols to which that insurance is put on you, which is a con. It's a con. Like, yes, every driver should have insurance, okay? But should my insurance go up because the insurance companies made it so much more expensive that people are driving around without insurance? That's insane. But it is a legal part of this country. So this is not I don't trust insurance companies. I don't trust the insurance industry because they were set up to fail us. Unless you're a shareholder, which is why I buy stock. Carry on. So let's talk about a security consultant because they got to be out there that are going in and saying, hey, these are the things you do better. You redid this store. How much did that security come to mind when you were redoing this store?
Oh, it's a ton, right? And the cameras have gotten so much better, right? Where we can see things so much clearer. The audio's gotten better on those cameras where we can pick things up. So, I would say cameras was the number one consulting that we did because everything else is pretty, normal stuff. But cameras and camera placement for any type of petty theft, meaning not the amount, but like the sleight of hand or I'm trying to take it, we have such a good eye on it now. And so I would say that was the best consulting that we did. But truth be told, my insurance broker is the number one consultant because he hears the stories right around the country of what went wrong. And so the best thing, for those of you listening, for any industry, if you have an insurance broker, let them tell you what other people have done wrong so you can fix that. I mean, that's really their value. I actually wouldn't even say it's finding the best price because anybody can go out there and get quotes.
No, you
from
want
3
white
or 4
glove,
people.
man. You want white glove. You don't want, this is not a set it and forget it thing, right?
No.
Like for your house insurance, most of the times go with a reputable guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then eventually the problem is that they see your complacency and just raise your rates through the roof because they don't care. There's no reason they're raising them other than they're like, oh, this idiot will pay whatever.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
All right. So now that I've destroyed the insurance industry, rightfully so, they suck. Let's talk a little bit about insuring and taking care of your own jewelry. So you come in here, you buy, let's just say you bought, it's a 25th anniversary, you bought a nice $8,000 piece. Let's call it $12,000 piece, right? Substantial, something you're going to wear where you go, but something dainty and the thought of losing it is just too prevalent. Give advice. Is that something that goes on your regular insurance? Is that something you need a rider for? Is that something you should go with Jewelers and Mutual for? Talk about engagement rings because I think it's very unspoken about. There's a lot of, everyone's telling you they're doing something for you, but eventually you're paying $50 a month for something that the likelihood of happening is almost none.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be a little looser on the whole insurance thing. I'm not a proponent of getting insurance all the time on everything, but the number one thing I'll tell people is get insurance on diamond studs.
Yeah,
that's such an easy thing to fall
and
out.
your insurance company, in 99% of the cases, it's not covered in homeowners insurance. You have to have a rider out on it. There's got to be some mechanism because it's too hard to itemize. It's not just part of the house, correct?
Correct. Okay. So I would definitely, look into jewelry specific insurance, because when it comes to the claiming side, it's much easier. They know what they're talking about. Right. If you want to get back what you actually purchased, right? The color, the clarity, the quality across the board, the insurance company, all of them will do that, but the jewelry specific ones we recommend Zillion and Jewelers Mutual, but definitely check them on their rates, right? So you also don't want to pay more. So I would look into, call your homeowners. They'll write an umbrella policy, see how much that's costing you.
Yeah, but so let me add this, because my umbrella policy, because I ask about this stuff because I just want to know. An umbrella policy, usually you have to take out a separate rider that names and itemizes the pieces specifically on the policy.
Yes.
Right? Because even though your umbrella covers $1.2 million, like the rider has to be on the individual item. So you may take a rider on the umbrella policy, but it's don't just assume because you have an umbrella policy, it applies to all these things.
Definitely don't assume that. And that's why, banks hate loaning money to jewelers as well, because the inventory, you can put it all in your pocket and walk out the store with it, right? And then, where did it go? Yeah. That's no different than people feel like, hey, I had someone in my house was doing some housework and all of a sudden my jewelry disappeared. It's like, that's so easy, right? So I think rightfully so, the insurance companies are a little more skeptical on jewelry because it's so small, it's so easily lost just from that regard. But, to answer the question though, I'm more worried about loss than I am theft, right? I think from a percentage standpoint. So I'm always thinking about, think about yourself. How clumsy are you? How much do you take off your jewelry versus sleep in it? I don't recommend sleeping in it. I recommend taking it off.
For sure. But if there's a loose fitting tennis bracelet, are you going to keep wearing it? Right. If the clasp was broken, you're like, it'll be fine. No, it won't be fine. That's why the clasp was there.
Yeah. And these things do wear away. Like the clasp over time, if you don't come back in and get it checked every couple of years and you wear it for 10 straight years, it's going to, the clasp is going to loosen. It's just a mechanism and it's going to fall off eventually.
It has nothing to do with the strength of the metal. You're redoing something 100 times over.
Yeah. Anything needs a little bit of maintenance. So I would say, I do recommend insurance. I am a little bit looser on it. So you need to kind of have your threshold of risk.
Yeah. As if anything in life.
Yeah.
You pick those, the risk reward protocol. If you want upfront payments, I mean, you can put deposit. There's lots of ways, but ultimately, no, you're paying for something that you have a hand in the risk involved.
Yes.
If you're clumsy and you lose things, if you have a safe versus not having a safe in your own house to put things into, there is parts here where you just go turn and blame the insurance company. It's like, well, you didn't take the time to understand these things.
Yeah. And if you're out there, I mean, this is probably very few people, but keeping jewelry in a vault, like a bank vault type of thing, there's something called vault insurance. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And you don't have to be, this is not like a rich person's thing.
You're talking a safety deposit box.
Yeah.
I have a safety deposit box.
There you go.
It's in New York, but it's like I have baseball cards and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But they were worth $10 when I was a kid, and my dad told me to get it, and they're worth tens of thousands of dollars now in a safe deposit box.
Yeah. And so look into that. If you've got a beautiful diamond necklace that maybe was passed down to you or something like that, and you're going to wear it once or twice a year, look into having a safety deposit box. Might be a lot cheaper than paying insurance on that. So
and
just
now that being said, the banks are getting rid of them. The banks don't have them as much.
True.
They're purposely trying to get rid of them because the contracts that were signed were for like $22 a month, and they were signed in lifetime perpetuity, so you can't inflation adjust these things. So most banks try to find every way possible to get rid of them.
Well, you know what, Nick? Maybe we just started a business here at Solomon Brothers. Vault insurance at Solomon Brothers.
Well, we're starting a whiskey vault, so this is only now could be the whiskey vault could actually be a safe deposit box with your cool stuff also. That's awesome.
That's too funny. But no, listen, insurance is awful until you need it, right? I mean, I think that's anything, but in jewelry, the reason going back to the jewelry specific insurance companies is that it does not affect any of your other rates across the board. So if that little diamond stud gets lost,
the risk is contained to the
into that
itself.
Only. So when that diamond stud gets lost and it's a $12,000 claim, it doesn't affect any of your home, nothing, right? Because these insurance companies are just waiting to go up on your policy, right? They want a claim to happen. They don't want it to be too big, so they can justify going up on your policy.
Yeah, because the odds of it happening in succession are always less.
Yes.
Right? Unless it becomes a thing where you're just spastic and you lose it all the time.
And Nick, that's actually an amazing point to bring up for those of you out there. It's another reason to do a jewelry specific. And I have no stake in this, by the way. I just want to say that. But to do a jewelry specific insurance is that, okay, if they drop you, right? If you have a bunch of claims and you get dropped, you're not dropping your homeowner's insurance. You have no, like, God forbid, you make a claim on jewelry too many times and then you lose your homeowner's insurance, like that would be a problem.
Yeah.
So I would look out for that. And when you're starting with 1, 2, 3 pieces, I think it's a no-brainer to do it.
Yeah.
When you get up to, 12, 13, 14 pieces and it becomes, then the umbrella policy and the itemized stuff starts to make a little bit of sense. But watch out for those insurance companies. My number one key, if anyone's listening to this that has a lot of jewelry on an insurance policy, make sure they're not just going up by the rate of inflation every single year.
Yeah, because jewelry fluctuates, price has nothing to do with the rate of inflation.
You need to check in. Diamond prices, we've talked about on the show, have come down tremendously. So something that you bought in 2012 or 13 or 14, I'm not saying it's gone down in value, but it's probably stayed about the same.
So the cost to them, other than the cost of doing business, which has gone up, don't get me wrong, inflation still applies, but the price that it costs to replace it, actually, in theory, versus inflation has gone down, so it hedges each other.
Exactly. And what these companies are doing is, I've done an appraisal for you that's, say, $15,000. 10 years later, you look at the policy, it's at $35,000. So you're paying premiums on 35 grand on something that's still worth 15. And it's like, this is highway robbery.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it, to get on my soapbox here, Nick,
love it. Wait for it.
Is that they will only pay you $15,000. So a little secret for everybody out there. I know you want high appraisals, but the insurance companies will only pay you what it costs them to replace it. So their promise to you.
They have deals already built with people who go the cheapest, with whatever it takes to be. They're probably the ones that are using the GIA from India because they give it an easier rating.
I'm so passionate about this because they're using me. Right. We are a State Farm dealer.
Right.
Okay. So if you have State Farm out there, not if you got it from Solomon Brothers, just if you have State Farm insurance on your jewelry, Solomon Brothers is going to get the call. Right. And then I have a deal with them to sell them everything at a certain price point. They have an agreement to say you can only sell at these percentages. And so if you lost your stud earrings that are HSI1, just throwing out a number, and you have them insured for $12,000, but the insurance company can get them for 10, they're going to give you the studs or they're going to give you $10,000, but they're not giving you 12. Right. So you need to check those policies because when it went up to 35 and it's only 15,
that's insane. State Farm has the leverage to do that because they have the pricing power to get the lower price. But when it's completely ridiculous, 12 to 10 is not changing someone's day. They have the right to do that. 15 to 35 is highway robbery.
Can I call an insurance company?
Sure.
Because they probably will never give me insurance, but Chubb Insurance, okay? Phenomenal at claiming. The reason, folks, why they're so phenomenal is because their rates are so ridiculous and they go up on everything every single year on you. You've got things on your Chubb policy. Nick, I have seen a piece that eventually, over the course of time, went all the way up to $180,000 from $40,000. The piece was still worth $40,000. They were being charged premiums on $180,000. And Nick,
where's the lawsuit?
This piece, this family that had it on there, they had paid for the piece 3 times over in premiums. They could have just never had insurance. Now, again, yes, if you lost it on day one, I get it. You needed that.
You signed the policy that had the stipulations that allowed that to happen. There's so much to blame here. But honestly, like I tell you, I will do an audit of my own insurance. I will only do 6-month deals. I prepay everything, but I'll only do 6-month deals. And I want to get slapped in the face with the cost of of renewing because it's insane these days.
I'm so passionate about this. I'm going to throw it out there for anyone that is listening, which is, probably not that many people, but
46.
I'm not saying how many I'll do for free, but I would be more than happy to look at people's policy, their jewelry, obviously, or any type of jewelry, art, bags, things like that I know a decent amount about, to look at and say, hey, you need less insurance on this. I'm not saying don't have insurance. Let's be clear. I am saying have the right amount of insurance. It is not fair that in the housing industry, a professional gets to come out, but in the jewelry industry, they just get to go up and up and up and up.
Well, look, it morphed into so much more than I thought it was going to be. And to be honest with you, we're definitely going to do a part 2 of this with more technical. And I think we get someone from Jewelers Mutual on the show to kind of do this. Or maybe we check with them at Centurion or something like that.
Yeah, but, we're going to eviscerate them, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? If they can stand pat and they believe in what they say, I'll probably respect them more.
I agree.
Right? I'd respect them more. So, great show. You've been listening to Legacy of Luxury, and we will catch you next week.